I just feel like I can get up from this conversation and go down to a park and spend the rest of the day in the park. Like, I just don't have anybody I have to check in with and
answer to and compromise with.
Compromise. And you know what, y'all, I know this, if you're listening, you might be saying that sounds so selfish. And it's still, there's a part of it that sounds selfish to me. But I gave 37 years to a marriage. I raised 5 kids. I did the selfless giving thing.
Yes. And then some.
And I am still, you can ask my kids, I still help them, I'll come babysit, whatever, I'll go out to lunch with you. I'll pay, even if it's fine. Like, I'm still giving, but it's on my terms.
Uh-huh.
And honestly, I wish I didn't have to get divorced to live this way.
Hey, dear listeners, we need to let you know that Kevin and Stephanie offer investment advice through Private Advisor Group, which is a federally registered investment advisor. The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations to any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision. Now let's get on with the show. This is Take Back Retirement, the show that's redefining retirement for women. Retirement is an old-fashioned cultural concept. We want to reclaim the word so you can make it your own. I'm Stephanie McCullough, financial planner and founder of Sophia Financial, where our mission is to reduce women's money stress and empower them to make wise, holistic decisions so they can get back to living their best lives. Kevin Gaines is my longtime colleague with deep knowledge in the technical stuff, investments, taxes, and retirement plan rules. He's a little bit geeky and quantitative. I'm a little bit touchy-feely and qualitative. Together, through conversations and interviews, we aim to give you the information and motivation you need to move forward with confidence. We're so glad you're here. Coming to you semi-live from the beautiful West Lakes Office Park in suburban Philadelphia, this is Stephanie McCullough and Kevin Gaines of Sophia Financial and American Financial Management Group. Say hello, Kevin.
Hello, Kevin.
Today, we're talking to Pat Fenner. Pat, as you'll learn, is a business owner, a podcaster, an author, but she's also a woman who went through and survived gray divorce. So we are actually doing a little revisit of our divorce series from a couple of years back with this real divorce story from Pat Fenner. Pat's new book, Rebuilding Your Life After a Gray Divorce, A Path to Healing, Significance, and Joy, is out now, and she's going to share some of her wisdom that she shares both in that and her podcast called Silver Women, Bright Future. Let's dive into our conversation with Pat. Pat Fenner, we're so excited to have you. Welcome to Take Back Retirement.
Oh, thank you, Stephanie. I am so excited to be here too. This is great. And Kevin, too. It's nice to meet you. And I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Awesome. So the reason we decided we needed to talk to you and share the conversation with our listeners was because a couple years ago, we did a kind of a mini series on divorce and the things that need to be considered if someone's going through it or has gone through it. And the unique perspective that you bring is on what's kind of known as gray divorce. First of all, let's define what the heck is gray divorce?
Yeah, gray divorce. It's not how your life looks bleak. It's not like that, but you do go through that. It's divorce that happens typically to women over 50 with more than 10 years of marriage. I don't know why 10 years seems to be the bar, but whatever. I mean, that's just the understood definition of it, but it's primarily the age, over 50.
Interesting. And so what, from your perspective that you've obviously experienced, but also seen with others, what are the unique challenges that come to women in gray divorce?
Okay, well, one of the things is usually, so in the day and time that we are recording this, women over 50 are typically boomers, or mostly boomers. We're still a great group out there. And stereotypically, but often we have not spent time in the workplace. We took time off to raise our families. If we worked, it was maybe occasional jobs or part-time jobs or things like that, but we weren't driven by our careers. And that's not a value judgment there on that. That's what happened. The problem with that is once you get to be over 50, 60, like when people are thinking of retirement and traveling, spending time with their grands and things like that, all of a sudden you are not a couple. And additionally, you have to provide for your income. Like all of a sudden you've got to do this. So what happened with me and with a lot of people that I've talked to is they don't feel like they have any marketable skills.
Yeah.
And even though ageism is illegal, put that out there, it's a common problem. How do I get a job? When I was first divorced, I felt like I'm going to end up being a greeter at Walmart. Like, which, nothing bad, to those people, but that's not what I wanted for myself. So there's this big hit to your self-image. So, you're not only not part of a couple anymore, but now you're unemployable. Where am I going to live? Some people do get like the house in the divorce settlement, but we had moved twice before I was divorced and I didn't have the home to get. We had to sell the house and then often because you have no employment history, I couldn't even rent an apartment because I didn't have 2 years of W-2 income to show.
Oh my goodness.
Talk about that's a big hit to your self-esteem, to your ego. I left a very nice home and couldn't get a slummy apartment even. So,
oh, wow.
Those are kind of, I think, unique. We don't have the stress of trying to provide for our kids, younger kids.
Right. If there are kids, they're usually launched at this point.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And that turned out to be a blessing for me because I spent quite a bit of time with my oldest daughter living with them while I was getting back on my feet.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
I mean, even just logistically, I didn't think about that a renter would not be interested in talking to you if you don't have an earnings history.
Let me tell you, Stephanie, that was news to me. And even though I can understand it, having owned rental income years ago, my husband and I did that. I just, you're still reeling from the divorce and then you have to be reminded of that.
Let's talk specifically about that hit to the self-image and the emotional toll that takes, because I know that's a big part of what stops people from kind of moving forward.
Yeah. In one of your previous divorce episodes, you'd mentioned, or you had a guest mention that most of the time, divorce is initiated by the woman, especially in gray divorce, because we don't have the kids to take care of anymore. And stereotypically, we're like, okay, is this all there is? In my case, and I have met other people, so I know I'm not alone in this, but in my case, my ex-husband presented it after years of going through counseling. And so, it was a surprise, but it wasn't a surprise,
Okay.
Right.
And he had already met someone else and was ready to move in to that relationship.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah. So the reason I mention that is it's to your question about the hit, that also adds all of the, wasn't I good enough for you? We've been working on this. What about all the work I put into this? What's going on? And then find out, about the unfaithfulness. It hits you in a lot of places. Let me just pause here for a second because I don't want any of your listeners feeling bad for me. It was a rough journey. Things are great. Okay. This is my story.
Yeah.
But in addition to that, so you're feeling like, what's the matter? Wasn't I good enough kind of, for you? In addition to that, I had taken care of, I was solidly in that sandwich season where even when the kids were in high school, just before they were all launched, I was taking care of my ex-in-laws. One of them was living with us and the other one was an independent retirement, but she was nearby. And they both passed at the same year. Our youngest left for college.
Wow.
Ooh.
And that's
a lot.
It's a lot. It was a lot. And I thought we'd had this understanding we would be moving, back to where I had some connections and stuff like that after all those things happened. And my ex-husband all of a sudden was backing up and he was like, well, I don't really want to move. Like, I like our house. I'm like, you're never there. He was traveling anyway when he was working. So all those things were happening and it just took a big hit on my psyche. Additionally, I'm a Christian and I took those vows for life. And all of a sudden I was having to revisit that. Yeah. So I just kind of took the bull by the horns and I decided I was going to put the house up for sale. And I did, and it got sold, and he was very angry about it, but we lived.
What was he going to do? Divorce you? Well, I got to make sure my wife doesn't hear this episode so she doesn't get any ideas.
Well, Kevin, I'm sure that you haven't checked out of your marriage, so I don't think you have anything to worry about. But I mean, he had emotionally checked out, and I really shouldn't have been surprised by it, but I was. That's just for whatever reason. Now, the good thing that came out of this was that I loved my in-laws. They were awesome. They were more like parents to me than my parents were really towards the end.
Especially if you had to care for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And shortly before my father-in-law died, he reconfigured his will so that there was my husband and his brother were the only two kids. And he reconfigured his will so that I got a third of it. And to me, like not to like husband and me, it's just to me. He said, because he was so grateful. I didn't know about this at the time while they were doing that. I found this out after he died.
Oh my goodness.
And I was touched beyond belief. But then later on, once I got over the grief and realizing like I couldn't even rent and all that stuff, I realized I'd had enough to purchase my own place with his money.
Okay, wait. What was your ex's reaction when he found out that his father left you money?
Well, he actually helped because this was before we were going through the divorce. So I think he's thinking, oh, great, I get 2/3 of the inheritance, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So he was all on board with it. But then we got the divorce and then I walked away with the third. So it was such a blessing. I mean, there's just no other way for me to look at it.
Yep.
A blessing because, I mean, I don't regret taking care of him, but I did not expect that.
Yeah.
Nor did I expect not being able to find a place to live. So, I mean, everything worked out. And to me, it's really nothing short of a miracle. But anyway, I digress.
Oh.
I do want to go back, talking about trying to get the renting and not having the 2 years of W-2s. When you were getting rejected, what were workarounds suggested, co-signers, for example, or anything like that other people going through this who may not have a pool of money to rely on could think about or force themselves to deal with?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it was suggested to me that since I had all adult kids, well, 2 of them were still in college, but they were grown. The 3 that were employed, ask one of them to co-sign for you. And I was really uncomfortable with that because I didn't want to be burdening them. Mm-hmm. They're all just getting started. 2 of them have young kids. I know even for when we were putting them through college, we never took out loans, which I'm so grateful actually that my ex-husband had that foresight. He's like, we're coming up towards retirement. I don't want to take on student loans at this stage of our life. Like, we'll help our kids however we can, but I'm not taking on a loan. And I, at the time, didn't like that idea, but there was wisdom in it. And I'm glad he did that.
Yeah.
But so I wasn't about to put them in that situation too. So those were the suggestions, get one of your kids to co-sign. I didn't have any other family that really would have done that I'm close to or that's even in the area. That wasn't a possibility. And the other one, I had a really snarky landlord tell me, well, why don't you just get a job and come back in 2 years? I'm like, oh, okay, sure.
You need to live on the park bench in the meantime?
What are you going to do? You just stay in a refrigerator box for 2 years?
No. Let me stay in your pool clubhouse there. I'll be fine. Fortunately, my oldest daughter has room in her home and I stayed there for a while. And I'm really kind of glad that actually that happened because that helped me just get my head together. I think Monica, one of your guests, mentioned that she took a trip. And sometimes people can do that. I wasn't able to do that financially. But staying with my daughter really just kind of helped me. I didn't have to worry about food. And she said, Mom, don't worry about contributing. Just live with us. Just rest. Just think about things and stuff. And it was super helpful to be able to do that.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just giving yourself some space, right? I mean, is there a grieving process that you had to go through?
Yes, there is. But what I thought at the time was grieving the loss of my marriage. What I really was grieving was the loss of what I'd hoped my marriage would have been.
Oh, interesting. Talk about that distinction.
I don't know. That's that happily ever after stuff. We all know marriage is work.
Yep.
And I was willing to put the work in. But you can't, and my ex did go to counseling. But the thing is that once we leave counseling, that's kind of when all the assignments would fly out the window, right? Like the things that you're supposed to do in between those sessions didn't get done. And I mean, I kind of look at it as you can lead a horse to water, right? I mean, if you're not going to put the work in, you can go to counseling session for every day and whatever. So it didn't. So that's why I say that I should have kind of seen it on the horizon. But yeah, what the morning was what didn't happen. And I think there's always going to be a bit of grieving for that. I was married 37 years. I knew him 3 years before that. I was with him for still longer than half my life.
Yep.
And we had talked about early on, plans about retirement and where we were going to go and what we were going to do. And things changed over the years, I guess. And I don't stay too long in that because I can't do anything about it anymore.
Right.
And so periodically I still do grieve. Like he's already moved on. He's got another relationship. He's got inherited another family, and he's got other kids. He's moved on, but I have to. It just looks different than what I thought it would be.
Yeah. Yeah. So what helped you move to a more positive perspective on this?
Well, one thing I want to share with your listeners, and this is something that totally blew my mind. Okay. So prior to my divorce, when I was nearing the end of homeschooling, I realized, hey, I'm going to have to figure something else out here. Right. So I started podcasting with a friend of mine who I'd met online. She was another home educator. And for 2 years, we did this podcast. Loved it, absolutely loved it. It was the greatest time. It was wonderful. So, but meanwhile, I was trying to become some kind of a homeschool coach or just do something with home education. I'm passionate about it. And we had a great time and I loved it and all that stuff. But nothing seemed to be clicking. So when we got, when he presented the papers and I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I had a friend of mine, she was a business coach, and she approached me. She said, I know you're really stressed out about this. I want you to think about something. Why don't you think about doing what you've been doing just as a pleasure project? Do it for other businesses and charge them. She said, you're good at it.
Meaning, do what?
Podcast editing. So I am, even now, that's what pays my bills. I'm a podcast producer. I work for businesses. I'm saying hi to your editor right now.
Hi, Zach.
And I never thought about that. And through friends that we both had in common, I started my business. I got a lot of referrals. I got started. And this was in 2020. This was like when things were
kind
of crazy.
That's when we started.
Yeah.
2020. Mm-hmm.
So things didn't take off as much as I wasn't pushing it because, I wasn't really, he hadn't presented me papers yet. This was still like, I think this is going to happen, but I don't want it to happen, all that kind of living in denial, all those stages of grief, right? But by the time then we were divorced, it was like, yeah, this is what I have to do. Like, this is what I'm doing. So it turned out wonderful. And the reason I want to share that part of my story is that if you're of a certain age and you have gone through great divorce or you're going through great divorce, like it's really, really important to sit down, assess, write down on paper all the things you've done and you've been doing, whether you enjoy them, whether you're just good at them. You don't necessarily enjoy them, but you're good at them. Just write. There is a boatload of stuff I can promise you, and it's all opportunities for you. You don't know what's going to work. And you don't have to know that right now. But even if you have been years and years out of the workforce, you've taken the time to raise your kids. I don't regret a second, but there were a lot of skills that I had that I didn't even think about. And I couldn't because my mindset was messed up. And, it's ended up being my income. But I couldn't have seen that at the time. So,
yeah. I love that. I mean, I have seen many women, even absent divorce, just took time out of the workforce. Kids left home. Now they're empty nesters. They think they have no marketable skills, no way to earn income.
Right.
And a couple of them had ended up, like they think all they can do is teach preschool. And lovely. If that's what your calling is, that's great. And my one friend, like, you have a master's in English. Like, yes, it was a few years ago, but you have other things you could do. She was like running her school board and lobbying the state lawmakers. And that's a lot of experience, even though it wasn't paid, because a lot of women's work isn't paid. But yeah, so I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. You just don't know. You don't know. And there's so much that we, even by virtue of the age we are, life experience, like, you're pointing out, and it doesn't have to be paid, but it's important. And you can use that. And when you have to, it gives you a little extra motivation.
But I would also imagine, at least for some, that it's like a first step of trying to take control of the situation or doing something constructive, trying to move on. I don't know if I'm overstating or overthinking it, but
no, you're not. And one of the things is, getting through, and then even having gotten through the divorce, we tend to overthink. I mean, it might not always be positive, but we tend to get into that thinking too much and not doing. And we're constantly thinking. And one of the other issues that I had a problem with, which I know you've mentioned in that series, is the finances. My ex had always been the one to handle the investments. We'd had investment advisors, but he talked to them, and then I met with them once a year, which I think we all know that there's a big difference there. So I did have some money. I didn't show up for myself well in the divorce proceedings, and that's a whole nother story. But I did end up with some investment money. And then but I had no clue what to do with it. And I had always heard years and years from him, we need at least 2 million to retire, or 1 million, or I don't remember what it was. It was at the time, it was something that I couldn't even imagine. We never really talked about, do we really need that? What are our expenses? There was no plan. It was just this big thing.
Yeah.
So I didn't have near that. And I was like, I'll never be able to retire. Well, okay, then what happens if like my business goes down, or what, like you're just thinking, you're overthinking everything, to your point, Kevin, but nothing productive, nothing moving forward. So I met with a financial advisor in a networking group that I'm part of for my podcast business. And we got to talking one time, and he said, why don't you come over? We can talk about things and your investments. Like, I could give you some ideas and some thoughts, and we can just see how that settles. So one of the first questions he asked me was, so Pat, what do you want to do? Like, what do you picture, the next 5 years or after, when you retire? And I looked at him and I started crying. It was not one of my more professional moments. And I said, I don't know. Like, my ex and I, that was always it kind of was always what he wanted, what he imagined, what he thought. And I don't know what I want. It was very embarrassing.
No, but it's so common with women, especially.
I know. But at the time, you feel like you are the only one. Talk about, you mentioned this, the shame with money. Oh my gosh. And it's like, well, nobody ever taught me, right? So how would you? And the thing is, if anyone came to me about, like, I don't know, making a lasagna, and they've never made it, I wouldn't get on to them for, how come you don't know how to make a lasagna? You're a grown,
Right.
Okay, I'll show you. It's like, there's no judgment there. But to me, to us, right, we judge ourselves.
Yep.
So one of the ways I overcame that was I am now studying to I want to become a financial advisor. I want to coach women who are in my stage of life that have been through a divorce and help them move forward. Like, life can be wonderful. There is garbage you have to go through, yes, but it can be good. Don't stay there. Don't stay there. So my kids think it's a hoot.
Like the quote, oh, do they really?
Yes, because, they started out by like, what? You're doing what? Because I always said I was the people person in the family. My ex was the numbers man. I was the people person. And I am becoming the numbers woman too.
Well, I think the people stuff is more important of a financial advisor than the numbers. The numbers, yeah, we got calculators, right? Like,
right.
It's the people thing that's more important to me.
Yes. And I don't want women to have shame like I did. And I know they will, but I want to help them get through it. How's that? That's better.
I love it.
The reality is, it is going to happen. You are going to go through this. You are going to have tears. You are going to have stress and all of these negative feels. But everybody has them. And eventually you're going to believe us when we say you don't need to have these. But everybody does.
Right. And it's the same thing for women who at this age who become widows, who lose their spouse and have never been involved in. Like, please, if you're married, if you have a happy marriage, or if you're married right now and you're listening to this and you don't have a clue of what's going on in your finances, let's start changing that, please, today. Promise yourself to do that. Your future self will be happy for you.
Woohoo! I heartily applaud that sentiment.
Yeah.
But Pat, you also said something about the retirement goals that you and your husband had. Now, in your case, it sounded like it was more his goals than your goals, but a lot of time it's a joint goal. And then when it's just one of you, the goals might change, which means the planning possibly needs to change, or the strategies. I mean, please comment.
Yes. I mean, absolutely. Absolutely. My retirement goals I don't even know, 183.6, not 3.6. I don't know. They changed a lot. Part of it was because I really love what I'm doing. I don't look at myself as really ever retiring. I want to have a work optional life. And what I do is remote. So I can do it from anywhere, because my goals now have been, I want to be more involved with my adult kids. I want to be more involved with my 3 precious, precious grandchildren and hopefully more. I want to travel. I want to do things that I always kind of laid to the side because I couldn't before. But it's not in acquiring stuff. I am so downscale. I mean, my kids, they love coming to my house because they're like, we have these conversations. I'm like, do you want this now? Because I really don't want to wait until I die to give this. If you want this, take it, or let me get rid of it. I'm so lean and mean. And I love it. It's so light. And I just feel like I can get up from this conversation and go down to a park and spend the rest of the day in the park. Like, I just don't have anybody I have to check in with and
answer to and compromise with.
Compromise. And you know what, y'all, I know this, if you're listening, you might be saying that sounds so selfish. And there's a part of it that sounds selfish to me, but I gave 37 years to a marriage. I raised 5 kids. I did the selfless giving thing.
Yes. And then some.
And then some. And I am still, you can ask my kids, I still help them. I'll come babysit. Whatever. I'll go out to lunch with you. I'll pay, even if it's fine. Like, I'm still giving, but it's on my terms. And it's my terms. And it's just a whole different ballgame. And honestly, I wish I didn't have to get divorced to live this way.
Oh,
I mean, I wish I had, and that's part of the grieving. I wish I had a spouse who could have been encouraging in me growing and discovering areas I wanted to grow in, but that's not the case. And so, I can't sit and stew about it. It doesn't help anybody. And that's why I wrote my book too, because I just don't want people to sit and stew in it. Like, there are things you can do to move forward, and it's important that we do them.
And I totally get that little inner voice in our heads that's saying we're selfish. And I don't believe it. Like, I push back on that. Now, I can't quite practice what I preach, but I think the world is going to be a better place if more women are doing what lights them up and taking that walk in the park and really feeding their soul and what gives them fire. That can only help the world, in my opinion.
Stephanie, I'm totally in agreement with you. You know that saying, you can't pour from an empty pitcher?
Yeah.
Well, I was trying for many years, and you're right. You can't. Oh God, you're right. You can force it. You can try whatever. But like, man, how awesome. I think for my grandkids to see me, Abuela's going on a trip because she wants to. Like, so, I won't see her for a week or 2. They'll miss me. And I'll bring a trinket for them when I come home. Like, I love that idea for them to see a grown, I don't know, can I say this? A grown ass?
Yes, you can. Say it.
A grown ass woman being a grown ass woman.
Yeah. Yep. Being independent, thriving. So that's one of the things that you had mentioned in your podcast, Pat, was about modeling emotional resilience for those in your family. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. Oh, man, I'll tell you, when I was first divorced, I know my kids, I love them to death, and I know they love me. And then I'm sure they had these conversations, Mom, I was a hot mess. What are we going to do about Mom? She's just not, what are we going to do? And I did stay there. I was there a little too long that I looking back, would have liked to be, but that's okay. Everybody's process is different.
Yes.
But they see me now trying new things. They see me with a business. They see me learning things. They know that it took me 3 times to get through my SIE exam and that I just kept going into it. And they are seeing this resilience. The hardest thing for me is going to be my oldest granddaughter is 6. And she asked me the other day, she said, why don't you and Pop-Up live together anymore? And I said, honey, I don't mind talking to you about this, but they're kind of big thoughts. And I think, can we go back and revisit this conversation in a while? We're both doing great. Pop-Up and I are doing great. And I think that's what she was worried about.
Yeah.
And I would love to talk to you about this, but I think these are kind of grown-up thoughts. And let's do this another time when you're a little older.
Oh, I like that. Good answer. And she was fine with the answer.
And she was fine with the answer. I mean, I was taking her seriously. I don't want to demonize my ex. There are times that I want to, but
your higher self doesn't want to.
Right. Exactly. But, I don't want to do that to her. And the concept of, but my life is better now. Like that doesn't sit with a 6-year-old. She can't understand that yet. So that's how I kind of do that. But I'm going to have that conversation with her someday, but she'll be able to understand a little more. And that'll happen when it happens.
Yeah. No, I love that. And the other thing that I really enjoyed that you talked about in your show was this idea of intentionally moving into a role and reclaiming it of matriarch.
Yes.
What does that mean to you?
That's something that I never really even considered. My mother-in-law, she's still always going to be my mother-in-law. She kind of adopted this matriarch attitude. She would love to tell people, she'd always sit at the table. We always had Sunday dinners together. And she would come and she sat at the head of the table because she was the matriarch. And she kind of, I don't want to say lorded it over, but kind of lorded it over. I mean, she wasn't obnoxious about it or anything. But she kind of liked being the matriarch. You gave her a role, right? And what's really interesting is now that her sister has kind of taken that over in their family. But I realized probably about a year ago that, I mean, if we were going to continue this line of thinking, I am the matriarch, right? My family. But I look at, the concept of patriarchy, which has really gotten twisted in our culture and stuff. Matriarchy to me isn't about being served. It is serving because, and what I mean, but I don't mean in the way that I did that with my kids growing up, feeding them and all that stuff. Matriarch is the head of the clan, the household, whatever, has the most years of experience, has a lot of life behind them, has learned a lot of lessons, a lot of wisdom to pass on. And to me, that's the role of a matriarch, how to extend or share life experiences so that the rest of the family can benefit from them. Now, it's not telling them what to do at all. I don't tell anybody what to do because then I'm responsible for their decisions and I'm done with that. But I do have a lot of experience and I can't say, hey, you know what? I was in your situation one time. This is what I did. But then I can say, I think that was a mistake, the way I handled it.
Mm-hmm.
Or I can see some potential problems with what you're doing. Are you interested in hearing it? I want to know. Because I want to give them the authority to say, no, I'm okay. I'm good. 9 times out of 10, they want to hear it. Doesn't mean they're going to do it.
Right.
I am not only am I a recovering people pleaser, but I'm also I'm an oldest child.
Mm-hmm.
My birth mother died when I was very young. And then my dad remarried, but I kind of took on the role of woman of the household at a very young age.
Wow.
I am so used to telling people what to do. I'm proud of that. So I'm recovering from that. I do have a lot of life wisdom, but that doesn't mean that it's all going to apply to you in your situation. And I have to accept that.
And they might not be that particular day ready to hear it.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I got to live with it. And that's fine. But that's why. So I take the role of matriarch to me in a more constructive way. Like I'm, no offense to my dear departed mother-in-law, but I'm just taking it and running with it,
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that. Pat, we could obviously talk all day because you're just a delight. And I love hearing your story and how you've transformed your situation and are inspiring others. How can people find you, follow along, and learn from your wisdom, even if they're not part of your family.
Okay. Okay. Probably because they're not part of my family. But anyway, I'll give you the link to my book, Rebuilding Your Life After a Great Divorce. I also do have a resource page on my website. My website is patfenner.me, but I have /silver resources. And I'll give you the link so you don't have to remember that. And that has a lot of resources for people who have been through a great divorce and are looking to move forward. And then, of course, I have the podcast, Silver Women, Bright Future, which I will be picking up again this summer, and love to share what I've learned and encouragement there.
Fantastic.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, guys. This has been a lot of fun. You're right. We could talk all day, Stephanie.
As always, we enjoy these conversations, Stephanie, especially when she was referring to our previous episodes, which I always enjoy. It's like, oh, hey, we don't have to promote our own stuff. Somebody's doing it for us. Yay! But
we will link to those in the show notes so you can find them.
one thing she did bring up that I think was a really good idea, and to her point, even if you're not getting divorced or going through some sort of life change, just periodically, I believe the cliche they like to use is taking a self-inventory or whatever. But yeah, understand what you've done in your past. Whether it's a job or not is immaterial, just the stuff you like to do, the stuff you can do.
Yep.
Because you may discover, hey, wait a second, here's something I want to do even as a hobby or just to kind of go off on do my own thing, so to speak. But if something sudden occurs, because we don't always get a 3-year notice that we're going to get divorced or become a widow or widower.
Or just financial things turn sour and you need to make a little money. Exactly.
But just doing that, it gives a sense of control and preparedness. I mean, we talk about this all the time of it's not so the importance of planning isn't so much, oh, we have to do this step by step, but just to have a framework and get in our minds, oh, if something does happen, we know how to react, or we can at least know what direction to go into. This is one of those steps. So clearly I've glommed onto that since I've been talking about it for the last 5 minutes. But anyway.
I have to say, I have gotten good advice from friends just having a casual lunch or conversation, and they'll say something about like reflecting back to me, either my strengths or ideas they have. And I kind of go, oh, either I hadn't thought of that. That's a great idea. Or yes, I had been thinking about that. And now you're confirming that maybe I could go that direction. So doing the self-inventory, but also talking to friends and acquaintances and getting some of that feedback.
Well, I mean, it's just to widen your network because you never know where you're going to get good advice or inspiration or a thought is going to come from. It comes from weird, unexpected places all the time.
All the time. Yeah, that's true. I also was touched by her story when she met with the financial advisor and he said, "What do you want?" And she burst into tears because she didn't know. I feel like this is a common refrain I hear from women kind of this era of life and friends of mine. You know, we've gotten through the phase where people needed us a lot. And now all of a sudden we have a little time and space. We almost come up for air and be like, oh, what do I like to do? I remember before the pandemic hit, I realized my youngest was going off to college. Of course, they both came back when we had lockdown, but that was unexpected. But I was like, wait, do I have a hobby? I don't think I have any hobbies. Like, if I had time to myself, what the heck would I do with it? Of course, Pat was forced to think about this on a more existential scale, but we've seen it with clients we talk to about their money, right? Money is a tool. What's it for? What is it you want in life? Wait, I get to think about that? I get to have a say? And I liked her point about post-divorce, yes, grieving what might have been and being on their own. But there's glorious parts about being on your own and getting to decide for herself what the heck she wants to do and how she wants to define her own version of success.
Well, I mean, and this is true of most of us, is our retirement plan, our retirement goals, the retirement life we envision is a compromise. It might be a happy compromise. It might be a brutal compromise. But if we are with a partner, they're not 100% in total alignment with everything you want to do. We're going to
usually,
right. Even when she sat down with her financial advisor for conversation, it wasn't even her advisor at that moment. But there was this, because she had never thought about what she wanted to do in retirement, she had issues. But even if you come down and when you first start thinking about your retirement life and you're on your own, even if you've given it a lot of thought, there was somebody else involved in the mix.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't hurt to fantasize, rethink,
dream big
of what would it look like if, for whatever reason, good, bad, indifferent, I get to be selfish, to use her phrase. What would that look like? Just a thought.
Thank you, dear listeners. We hope you enjoyed this revisiting of our divorce mini series. When we met Pat, we knew we just had to come back to the topic. We will link to all of her resources in the show notes. We'll talk to you next time. It's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from her.
Be sure to subscribe to the show and please share it with your friends. Show notes and more information available at takebackretirement.com. Huge thanks for the original music by the one and only Raymond Loewy through New Math in New York. See you next time.
Investment advice offered through Private Advisor Group, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Private Advisor Group, American Financial Management Group, and Sophia Financial are separate entities. The opinions voiced in this material are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual security. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult your financial advisor prior to investing. This information is not intended to be a substitute for individualized tax advice. Please consult your tax advisor regarding your specific situation.